Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our little tour around our celestial neighborhood. I'm Irene Pease, your friendly neighborhood astronomer. Excited to be exploring something near Earth for once. We're staying very, very close. This is about as far away as we're gonna get. This view right here. It's just gonna get closer from here. This week we're going to be taking a look at the ISS, and I thought it'd be fun to just kind of stalk it around the globe for an orbit. Not to be creepy, just, for fun. So following it not in a very totally uncreepy way. That's the goal tonight. So we have the same visuals as usual. Right now you see open space in the background. You can find and download that for free at openspaceproject.com. And in just a moment, we'll switch over to Stellarium, which you can find and download for free at stellarium.org. And I just have to say, I learned a lot about Stellarium. There's so much more I have to learn. It just like really opened my eyes to how little I know in one of the AAA classes. So if you're in New York City, or if you're not in New York City and you want to join the Amateur Astronomers Association of New York, they have all kinds of fantastic classes. And last night I took a class that was just about learning how to use Stellarium better. And who knows, they might be able to offer it again in the future. Keep you posted. I'll definitely let you know about that. Anywho, popping on over to, the Stellarium, as I've been raving about. So tonight it's dark again in Brooklyn, and see what's up in the night sky: stars, Milky Way, Mars, Uranus. Can't see a whole lot of that. Um, but what we do have I don't know if there's going to be a pass tonight. I don't think so. I figured we'd try to look for the International Space Station, the ISS, since that's kind of the star of our show tonight. So I use ISS Finder, which is I think it's a free app because I almost never pay for apps. So pretty sure it's free. And there's other ISS information. You can get it at Cloudy Nights? No, Heavens Above. I think heavensabove.com. There's a lot of places you can get it, but I like my apps, so that's where I go. But if we go ahead and take a look, there is a pass over in New York on Friday. And again, these are very localized. So just because it's passing over Brooklyn doesn't mean it's going to pass over your town. If you're somewhere wildly different, like off the coast of Venezuela, you'll need to check your local charts. And the apps, like, they know where you are, and so they'll let you know when something is coming. So tomorrow night, wow, tomorrow's already Friday. I can't believe that's like one day away. Okay. Um, it's going to be back around 5:30. So we'll kind of bring this back. And it looks like the sky is pretty bright. I mean, the sun isn't really going down. Whoopsies, wrong button. The sun isn't really going down just yet, but the International Space Station is very bright. It's probably one of the brightest. um, one of the brightest satellites up there because it's really big and it has all these solar rays, which we're going to see, which makes it really reflective. So that's how you get a bright satellite. Usually you're going to see satellites like the ISS just after sunset or just before sunrise. And then we have something bright coming up over here. Just kidding, that's Crew Dragon 1. I didn't realize that was up there. But yeah, that is weird. So normally you have, you just zoom in there a little bit. Once the sun has kind of set, so the background sky is a little bit darker, and then the satellites appear brighter against like that kind of darker sky. The same reason we see like the stars come out, at night, quote unquote. Um, so yeah, this is actually the time that I had written down. And I looked at this like seriously just like 3 minutes ago, and it said that was the ISS. Um, so that's kind of weird. If I can zoom in enough to see it, but that's basically what it would look like. It would look like, a pretty bright spot going across the sky. I really wanted to have it say the ISS though. I just did this like 15 minutes ago. So maybe if I click through a little bit more. Nope, that was it. that was our ISS pass for Friday. So let me just try one more thing in here with our handy dandy Stellarium, because one of the things we can do with Stellarium is actually search for things. So if I search for the ISS or Zarya, that's the one. Find it. All right, so now if we click through, we should see it coming up. Oh, there it is. Okay. So yeah, so that was basically it. So Zarya. So there it is. So ISS, it's also called Zarya because Zarya was the first piece of the ISS. So I'll just kind of let this run in real time and kind of watch. So you can just kind of watch it drifting across the skies there. And now it selected another thing. So this pass, it's supposed to be a longer pass. I think it was supposed to be 7 minutes. But again, check your local apps. Check your apps for whatever local times and locations and directions and altitudes. So not all ISS passes are created equal. The best ones are where it's higher in the sky, where it makes a long sweeping pass across the sky. I think New York City is going to have a few of those coming up in March, which is, it'll be here before we know it. I just know it. Anyway, something to look out for, always kind of a treat to see because there's people in space, which is kind of awesome. So what else is out tonight? Or I guess this is already set now for tomorrow night. Well, the other thing that I thought was kind of nicely themed was our constellation. Last week we looked at the invisible unicorn, I believe, in this kind of triangle. So there was the monoceros unicorn in there. And if we wait a little bit later in the evening, then kind of above the back of the big dog, the big good dog, kind of back there, we have this constellation. It's kind of a southern constellation, but it rears up above our horizon. And yep, that's well, I call it Puppis. I know some people say Poopus. I see Puppis. It's a poop deck. So if we just kind of remove the Earth for a moment, there's the rest of the ship, Argus. So we have the poop deck, Puppis. There's Vela, the sails, Carina. So that those three are kind of broken up into separate constellations, but it's all like this big ship. So visible from the south, but part of Puppis. Sorry, I meant to bring the Earth back. But part of Puppis is visible from the north. So kind of behind and off the back of the big dog, Canis Major. And again, you can see there's kind of, the Milky Way that we saw going through Monoceros is also going through that part of the sky. And there are a few more really gorgeous star clusters over there, as you would probably guess. And you'd be right. So over there, kind of between the unicorn and the poop deck, I think they're technically part of the poop deck. Yeah, there's our constellation boundaries. So M46 and M47. So all these like dotted yellow lines, those are all open clusters. So groups of young stars that all kind of formed together. And now they're hanging out in space together. But again, those are two things that you might see if you kind of scan that part of the sky. So we have kind of like these deep space images in here. And one of them even has a planetary nebula that you can see with a telescope. So kind of the remnants of an older star. It's probably just the same line of sight. But here we zoom in on that M46. So you see these bright, or not super bright, but this nice little cluster, open cluster of young stars. And then this is the Planetary Nebula, which is what our sun will do someday when a medium-sized star kind of puffs off its outer layers towards the end of its lifetime. So kind of neat. It's kind of like the beginnings and the ends of stars not gravitationally bound, most likely, but so it's like kind of a neat 2-for-1. You get two objects if you could find this one spot in the sky. So that's for a telescope. If you have binoculars, you can just see the clusters and just with your eyeballs, see if you can make out some of those stars of Puppis. So again, if you look kind of, get rid of some of my lines, off the back of the big dog, so his tail kind of goes out like parallel to his back. But if you kind of go off in a separate direction, you might be able to see some of these slightly brighter stars. But you might need a darker sky to see some of that. So, little challenge for the week. Good luck finding another constellation. We're working our way through the winter constellations, and we will be there soon. Get through all of them. So we're going to hop back on over to open space and see what we can see there. Right. So that's the Earth. All right. And I wanted to, before we get to the ISS, just turn on a couple things here. This will respond a little bit. So I just turned on some of the brightest, I think it's about the 100 or so brightest satellites. And just to give you a sense, like these are kind of orbiting in the region where the International Space Station is. So if we turn on time a little bit faster than normal, this is about 7 seconds per second. There's a few more. It's about a minute per second. So we're speeding up time, but you can see all these satellites, all these purple streaks are orbiting around in what we'd call low Earth orbit. So still relatively close to the Earth, only a few hundred kilometers above the surface. So there's a lot of stuff, and these are just the brightest ones. So there's a lot of stuff, but there's also a lot of space. So like these lines are all much, much larger than those satellites would be. But just to give you an idea, there's stuff up there going around in all directions, which is kind of neat. Hopefully not too terrifying. I mean, maybe if I were up there with all of it, trying to like not get hit by stuff, I'd be slightly more terrified, but I'm not, so I'm all good. So let's go ahead and check out the International Space Station. So I kind of bookmarked a time to visit it. If I can find my bookmark. It's like when you have something and you put it exactly where you thought you would want it to be, and then find it. There we go. So we went through a little bit of space, a little bit of time to get to here. And if I turn on the ISS orbit, you can see its trail there. So it's kind of just come off of the Pacific Ocean and it's heading over towards the US. So let's go ahead and pay it a little visit. Zoom in there. Remember your speed limit. Yeah. So the International Space Station orbits at an altitude just over 400 kilometers. So at that altitude, it takes just shy of 93 minutes. So that's why I said around the world in 93 minutes or less. So we're going to speed up time. I was planning on doing about 4 minutes per second. Whoa, there goes the satellite. Or something. There goes the something. So pay no mind to this orientation. We're just going to kind of turn it around. I think we get a little bit topsy-turvy. So this side is our kind of the forward side. This is the aft, port, starboard. So we're just going to kind of rove around it. And I actually kind of wanted to see the view of Earth as seen from the International Space Station. If we set this, so actually first let's just look at this in real time. So if this is set to real time, so there we're all ship shape. So first thing you'll notice, obviously huge solar rays as we wait to kind of over the land. So a lot, about 2,500 meters square meters worth of solar arrays. So that's supposed to cover half of a football field. I didn't do that math because I don't watch a lot of football actually. But it's enough to power 40 homes, which is a lot. All right. So you have these huge solar arrays, and then you have these other things sticking off of here. Wonder what those are. They're kind of like giant fins. Um, but here we come up over over the Pacific, the Northwest Pacific coast, and you can actually see like this is in real time. Like this is how fast. If I just pause the friction, this is how fast the Earth would be moving along below the ISS as it just like bops along. Okay, so just for the sake of this show, because I'm not going to spend an hour and a half here, we're going to go ahead and speed it up a smidge to like 5 or 6. So we're speeding through time. 5 or 6 seconds. Right now it's at 6 seconds per second. So 6 times actual speed. So really amazing views of the terrain below. You can see, flying over mountains. You can see like just kind of like the ridges of mountain ranges. You can see lakes and things. And then at night, I'm hoping to catch, I think we're going to be flying over Cape Town, or at least the southern tip of Africa. And so hoping that I can catch that as we go over it. So on this pass, basically someone on the East Coast might actually have seen this because we're kind of coming up into the evening. So you might recognize some of those kind of northern lakes. I don't remember how far into the US we are, but yeah, it all looks so different from up here. Anywho, let's take a look. So these fin things that I mentioned, we're collecting a lot of energy, right? Collecting a lot of light, and the solar panels do rotate so they can kind of aim and catch the sun, as it were. But then we also have these panels. These are photovoltaic radiators to do just what it sounds like, to radiate away excess energy. So you have basically coolant going through those to kind of keep systems cooler, because you're kind of out there just soaking up radiation. So if we kind of look at it, the belly side, the Earth-facing side, the first pieces of the ISS, what we currently see as the ISS, went up in 1998. So the first piece was, you guessed it, Zarya. So that's why it's still listed as Zarya on Stellarium. So this piece in here, that's the original module, that first bit that was sent up by Russia. And so that's still there today. It's kind of an equipment room. So it's still very much in use. All these pieces have to be very much in use because space is kind of at a premium. So Zarya means dawn, so it's kind of like a new dawn for Russian space exploration, and also this collaboration with other countries and building this station. So it was kind of a big deal. So this side of the station, kind of from Zarya on, that's kind of the Russian side. One of the next pieces that came up was Zvezda, which means star. So this is the Zvezda module over here, which is still serving as crew quarters and has a bunch of the life support systems for the station. So when I say crew quarters, like, yeah, you're kind of all in very small quarters up there, but they started off running like 2 or 3 people per crew, and eventually they got up to about 6. So now there's like more like 6 people per crew on standard missions, but there's also a lot more space up there than there used to be. So ever since early November of 2000, it has been continuously occupied by people. So even though the first pieces went up in 98, they didn't have people continuously staying there, but ever since, for over 20 years now, there have been people continuously living there, which is pretty awesome. So the other bit over on the Russian side, this bit down here, I think might just be a science station, so they can do science in there. Oh, here we are coming over. Whoa. I see lights. I see ocean. I think we're rounding the tip of Africa. I don't know Africa at night, but I'm guessing that's some of it. So wave to the southern tip of Africa. So the next piece that went up that made this truly international was this bit here, Unity. So that's that next module after the two main Russian modules. So that was a US piece. And at that point, yeah, international. So more than one nation. So Unity now is kind of like where they often meet to have meals. So that's, I guess, kitchen, dining room. Off of Unity, we have Tranquility, which is probably would like, I don't know. I think if I were on the ISS, this would be one of my favorite places. It's where at least one of the bathrooms is. And basically the gym. So they have equipment there for working out. And also some life support. So I think in case of emergency, everyone crowds down to Zvezda Zarya region. But if you're just hanging out, like you have the gym, you have a bathroom right there, and of course you have the way rad cupola. So this part was put together by the ESA, and you've probably seen all kinds of pictures taken out of these windows that open up. People, hanging out, waving at the earth. So that's, very much on the earth facing side. Probably best view in the house. So very cool that they installed that. Just kind of a neat place and, attached to Tranquility. This blob here sticking off of Unity is actually no longer on Unity. That's Leonardo. That's kind of like more storage and stuff. So back in 2015, I believe, they pulled that off and stuck it on the forward side of Tranquility. So that's been rearranged a little bit. A lot of these pieces, I mean, they're all modules, so you can all like kind of stick them together, pull them apart, rearrange them, and that's happened to some extent. I believe Harmony, this bit here, which is another US piece and has more living quarters on it, that actually came up before Destiny. So then Destiny kind of got stuck in between Unity and Harmony. And Destiny is it's a US research lab region. And then basically there's just more research over on this side. So there's Columbus, which is I think it's the largest ESA module that's labs. And then the largest single module is Kimbo, which is a Japanese. All of the stuff is a Japanese equipment and experimenting areas. This is what I guess some people call the terrace. It's the exposed facility, so they can put experiments out there that are exposed to space as opposed to things that they're just testing out in microgravity. So I don't think people actually go walking out on the terrace, but yeah, terrace. They have a little arm there, and of course the the famous Canada arm, contributed by Canada. So this really fantastic arm that was really instrumental in getting a lot of this assembling done. So things are mostly weightless because they're in microgravity. As you're orbiting around the Earth, you're in free fall, but things still have mass, so they still have inertia. So if you can just move things slowly and controlled, you can get all these large pieces moved around and fitted into place. There's actually a cool video of the Canada arm moving the Leonardo storage tank from down below Unity to the forward side of Tranquility. And then this is one of the docking stations. So there's several of these around, you may have noticed. This is where Crew Dragon docks. I believe that's where the space shuttle docked. This other bit over here, this kind of airlock over here sticking off of Unity. Is that Unity? I don't know if they still do spacewalks from there or not, but I don't know. One of the sources said that was like a region for launching and landing, not launching, but getting in and out for spacewalks. So kind of a region, like an airlock in there that you could evacuate and pop out and in safely, as it were. Oh. So a lot of solar arrays, you even have like all this stuff. So I mean, Zarya used to be completely self-contained, so some of that's like almost in storage, as it were. But yeah, just kind of an incredible feat, and other plans for future potential um, space stations. The Chinese want to make a station, and the Russians may or may not pull off and start building their own station. I just get really excited about the fact that there's people living in space. This reminds me that we are living in the future, and there are people living in space. And as they fly over you, because you should wave hello, because a lot of the time they're just out over water. So like here we are, just out over the Pacific, and if we're coming back up on land again or not. But most of the world is water. So, look down and see water. You see weather patterns, which is really beautiful. But I know they've put out some really beautiful images and photography of flying over land and different land features as seen from Earth, seeing the aurora from space. Just a really different, cool view. So, yeah, I think we're coming back up on the west coast of North America again. So I'm going to go ahead and sign out. This was our, um, this is just like one little trip around in a very short period of time, going at 6 times the regular speed. So actually, is this, just kidding. This isn't North America. This looks more like Australia. So we're coming up over Australia. This was one that I wanted to see, actually. So I just want to see the view um, of Australia from the ISS, and then we'll sign out because there's just like really beautiful colors. I know this is like some of the features I know from the Chris Hadfield book. You Are Here, I think it's called. Um, has just like really cool shapes and lines, and I don't know, it just makes you fall in love with the planet all over again, from that perspective. So, all right, so there's Australia. And then we're coming back up on the Pacific. Um, so that's our little trip around most of the Earth with the International Space Station, all the cool people on it. Um, Hope you enjoyed, and join again next time. We're going to be doing Mars. It's Mars, Mars, Mars this month. So tune in then. But yeah, that was our little trip around our celestial neighborhood, staying very, very much in the neighborhood this week. Thanks for the visuals from Stellarium, which you can find at stellarium.org, and OpenSpace, which you can find at openspaceproject.com. Again, I'm Irene Pease, your friendly neighborhood astronomer, wishing you clear skies. Be safe out there. Don't forget to wear a mask.